Hi, in this lecture we will talk about IAM best practices. So it is very essential to follow these best practices while you are creating the IAM account and managing your organization user credentials. So the first one is lock away your AWS user root account and user access key. It is very much essential because if you are going to give away this particular root user access keys to anyone, or let's say if somebody gets hold of it, they can actually misuse your entire AWS account. They can spin up lots of AWS EC2 instances. They can misuse your database. They can drop the table. They can actually terminate lots of services. So it could be a disaster for your organization if you are going to give away the root access to someone who is not intended for it. So it is always best practice to lock away your AWS root user. The second one is create individual IAM users. So definitely for individuals you need to create their separate user account in order to make sure that who is doing what. You can actually get a trail of it, and you can actually manage to see who is doing what. Use groups to assign permissions to IAM users. As I mentioned in my last video, that it is very essential for an admin to make sure that you assign you create a group, then you assign permissions to it, and then you add users in that group. So and you start off with the least privilege in the group, because if anybody would require more privilege, definitely they will ask for it, and based on the analysis, based on the requirement, you can grant them more privileges. Get started using permissions with AWS managed policies. Definitely if you are new to it, you can start off with using the AWS managed policies, and then you can create your own custom policies when you are comfortable with it. Use access level to review IAM permissions. Configure a strong password policy for your users. So all these things are inbuilt features. You can actually enforce lots of fine-grained policies for your passwords, for your permissions, and that will help you to secure your AWS resources and AWS access control. Then enable a multi-factor authentication for privileged users. So let's say if you are a privileged user, you have access to all the EC2 instances, which are part of Hadoop cluster, or maybe they are part of some cluster which is hosting a big application. Definitely you need to enable multi-factor authentication, which will enable them to log in onto AWS account using their password as well as their soft or hard token, like an RSA token or something like that. So use roles for application that run on Amazon EC2 instances. As I mentioned in my last video, that roles are very essential when it comes to granting access to Amazon resources or applications. So let's say if you have a Lambda service running and you want to have access to one of the EC2 instances through Lambda, you can actually grant roles for Lambda service to assume EC2 admin or a user role, so that it can perform certain actions, or it can log on to EC2 instance, something like that. Maybe, and you can actually get into the finer grains, because the IAM allows you, or the IAM roles allows you to actually go up to the ARN level, Amazon resource name level, to grant you the roles. So let's say if you have multiple EC2 instances and you only want to and you have one application which requires access to a particular EC2 instance, so definitely that EC2 instance will have an ARN, dedicated ARN, which is unique, and that ARN you can map it to the role. So the application which wants to have access to that exclusive EC2 instance, it will only assume required role on that host, not on any EC2 instance. So that is very essential feature, and it is very important to know these kind of things which are available in the IAM user security. So use roles to delegate permissions. Do not share access keys. Definitely it's a completely no. You do not supposed to share access keys. Rotate credentials regularly. So there is already a feature inbuilt where where you can actually enforce a policy to rotate the credentials. Then remove unnecessary credentials. So let's say if somebody leaves the organization, you are supposed to deactivate or delete the credentials. Use policy conditions for extra security. And of course monitor activity in your AWS account. So all these things are very essential, and they come under the best practices of IAM. Hopefully you have got an insight that on an enterprise level how you can manage your access as well as security along with the auditing. So sometimes it becomes very essential, and let me put it in a right way. It's not sometimes, it all the time it is very essential to have the security in the right perspective, because if your application or if your platform is not secured, data is always at threat. So using these best practices, you can make sure that the users are enforced to follow the company policy, and they are not allowed to use the resource which they are not authorized to. So hopefully this lecture was useful, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you.